Good morning, friends, and welcome back again this week to Quick Thoughts Devotions. We're taking a look this week at 3 examples of providence from the Bible. Now, as I said in the opening episode, providence is a word that's perhaps not used as much as it used to be anymore, but it is a concept that people still refer to. Unfortunately, and I had a discussion recently where I alluded to some circumstances in my life as being providence, and the response I got from a coworker was that it couldn't be because that circumstance involved discomfort, some pain involved, and there's no way that that could be. My friends, that's a mistake. That's selling God short. If providence is God in His infinite foreknowledge and understanding and wisdom, reaching down and providing and interacting and guiding us, we have to assume, or we don't have to assume, the Bible clearly tells us He knows what's best for us far above our own, and sometimes the short term may not look good, but the long term is the greater good. Let me show you what I mean by that. We're going to look at Genesis chapter 50 this morning. Genesis chapter 50. Last time we discussed Abraham and Isaac, and that'll lead nicely into this. My friends, it wasn't just providence that Abraham was stopped before sacrificing his son. It was providence that God called him to do that act, and then followed through the entire time. There was not a time when God wasn't working in that circumstance and in that situation and with Abraham to bring about this test of faith, to bring about this record for you and I, and this wonderful illustration. The same is true for this morning. Now, Joseph was his father's favorite son, and the brothers got jealous. And probably if you're a church goer, a Bible student, you know this story very well, how he was sold into slavery out of the jealousy of his brothers. And he was written off as dead. Matter of fact, they told his father that he was dead, that he was attacked by an animal in the field. But years later, you see, God was in that thing from the very beginning. Years later, Joseph had risen to the position of prominence, wherein that he saved Egypt through his wisdom and through his setting aside this plan and interpreting the Pharaoh's dream. And now it was the case that his family had to come and ask for food because of the famine. Now, in Genesis chapter 50, the last chapter of this first book of the Bible, we find the conclusion of this segment or this story. We find years later, after he had revealed to them who he was, and he brought his whole family into Egypt and gave them the best of the stores that he had, and brought his father up and had taken care of them, now we find that their father has died. We find that these brothers are looking back over their life, the choices they made, and they're deathly afraid. Now that their father is dead, will Joseph continue to show kindness toward them? They're afraid, my friends, because of what they've done. But in chapter 50, Genesis chapter 50, verse 19, Joseph said to them, "Do not fear, for am I in the place of God? As for you, you meant it evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive as they are today. So do not fear, I will provide for you and your little ones." Thus he comforted them and spoke kindly to them. Now, my friends, why do I bring you to this example? Simply this. What did Joseph say? He said, you meant to do evil. And my friends, sometimes we sell God too short. We think He's a small God, but He's not. Sometimes we think that the intentions of men, our friends, our family, or even our adversaries, be they at work or just in the community, we think sometimes, or we forget sometimes, that even when they have horrible intentions toward us, to hurt us, to hinder us in some way, to take things from us, my friends, God is above all of these circumstances. Joseph looked at his brothers and he said, even though you were intending evil, and that doesn't take any way of blame for them because it rests on them. They intended that for evil. But God was sovereignly in control of the whole situation to bring about the salvation of this family, to bring about this lineage being preserved. My friends, it was all in God's plan. This is providence. That God, supernaturally, through His wisdom, through His foreknowledge and perfect understanding, controls and provides and guides us here on earth. My friends, He provided the way of salvation even though His brothers meant it for evil. My friends, I hope that we can look and see a God who is so big that even though people intend evil toward us, God can use it for good. It might be an uncomfortable or a sad or a hurtful circumstance, but if we have a heavenly perspective, we just might look at our lives and say those times of pain were providence.